Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, here at Casa de Gardner.
Something
William
like that.
Gardner, our football analyst. We're going to grab some lunch after this, this is something we expected. Was recruiting was kind of close to breaking through a little bit. And this past week, Colorado gets 2 cornerback commitments, one of them a blue chipper in Preston Ashley from Mississippi, the other from Maurice Williams Jr., who had a handful of other early Power 4 offers and had been committed to Liberty for a while. Your initial reaction with those 2 guys jumping on board with the Buffaloes?
Well, I think it's a nice development, gives us a little bit of a boost, getting, everybody's losing their mind and peeing down their leg. It's June, we don't have enough guys on board. And so I think, Preston Ashley in particular is a very highly rated recruit, and I'm not going to second guess any defensive back that Coach Prime wants to bring on board. So I think that's 2 good additions, and I think we'll get more as time goes on.
Yeah, I think Preston Ashley really stands out from a nickelback role on his film. That's something I mentioned in a video that I did earlier this week, that he is so versatile as a defensive back. I wouldn't say quite to the athletic extreme of Chidozie Awuzie, but I did see like some Cheeto like in his film, just in terms of the versatility, the different ways they used him. I mean, he's blitzing off the edge, and he's doing a lot of different things, playing traditional cornerback as well. So he's got a skill set, I think, that could come in and probably be part of the mix pretty early on.
Yeah, I think he's neither one of these kids is the biggest guy in the world, but I think they're both very talented and both got some length to them and some abilities to do different things. And I think that's what we're looking for, is guys that can do different things in the secondary to give us more flexibility back there. So I think that's a couple of good additions to the team, and more will be coming.
I did a story this past week updating where Colorado's spring and summer official visitors in the 2026 class are with their recruitment process. 35 official visitors, and we mentioned Preston Ashley and Maurice Williams committed. Obviously, Gavin Mueller is another prep recruit committed in this class. And then you've got this host of guys that are about to announce. By the time this show goes live, Deacon Schmidt from Windsor will have made his decision. He went by CU quite a few times. It does sound at this point, and maybe I'll have to edit this out if it doesn't happen, but it does sound like Oklahoma is going to be the choice there. We would have probably made it up to Windsor High if he was expected to be a Buff today.
Yeah.
And you never know. It's verbal commitment. It's still a process that you can continue to recruit him. So we'll see if the Buffs stay in it for him. But looks like he's going to be headed out of the state. But July 1st, Washington linebacker recruit Colby Johnson is going to announce. I really like the Buffs' chances there. Trip Skews from Kent Denver High School. He's also set to announce on July 1st from a Final Four of Colorado, North Carolina, Texas Tech, and Vanderbilt, and a bunch of other guys. If you haven't checked out that feature yet, it kind of breaks down who is still looking at Colorado. And then, there's some guys that have committed elsewhere to other schools. I think KJ Edwards going to Texas A&M, that was a tough one because it looked like for a second there after his visit that he was pretty interested. And there's some other guys that have committed to other schools as well. Did you have any big takeaways from that story?
Not really. I think we're still waiting on a lot of really good players, and I think we're going to get our fair share and we're going to lose others. But I think also what's clear is that we're not just recruiting for this signing period. We're recruiting guys for the long term, for when guys decide to change locations or whatever, that we will have a relationship. So finishing second is almost as good as finishing first anymore, given the facts of how you can move guys and transfer to different places. So I don't know, I think it's going to work out fine. I think we're still in there for some huge names, and I think that there's seriously a lot of wait and see out there from the national perspective, and that's fair. I think that everybody wants to see if Coach Prime really can do this without Shadur and Travis and all those guys that graduated. But I think that's also, I think they don't understand Coach Prime if they think that. And I get that from national people. I don't understand that from people on our board who claim to be CU fans that are paying attention. But I guess you've got to be fanboys unless you're the only realistic thing, I guess, is anyway. We'll move on.
Hey, if you want to go on a rant.
Well, I don't know. You think after 2 years, and I know 2 years isn't forever, but you'd think at this point that people would start to give Coach Prime Deion Sanders some credit that he knows what he's doing. He's got a plan, and so far it seems to work out most of the time. I think so. 9 wins last year, and I think we're going to have to go out there on the field and get 8 or 9 wins again this year to prove to some of these people and to some of these recruits that it's the real deal. So I'm sure that all these guys that are getting recruited by places like Alabama and Oklahoma, whatever, they're going out there and they're saying, look, you can't trust that this Coach Prime guy is gonna last there or that he's gonna be successful. They had a big season. They lost a Heisman Trophy winner. They lost their quarterback, and they're gonna fall back. And so, I don't know. Those are big decisions for kids, and that kind of thing probably weighs on them. And so we have to go out and prove yet again, even to our own fans, I guess, that Coach Prime knows what he's doing and this thing is on the right track.
Yeah, the thing that when I get into debates with people that are very pessimistic about Colorado and bring up Shadur and Travis and all of that, is I point out the fact that the last 3 recruiting cycles, the overall class rank in the Big 12 has been 1, 1, and 2.
Yeah.
And this past year was 2 behind Texas Tech, which put crazy amounts of money into their NIL and allowed them to have that top overall class. But, you keep projecting Colorado to finish in the bottom half of the conference if you want, but you're not paying attention to the talent that's in the program if you're doing that.
Right. You're not watching the trends and seeing what's actually going on out there, and I don't know, we get this every year in June. I guess it's the doldrums or something. It's just like the whole world, it's all coming crashing down and everything sucks and woe is me, and it's June, man. I don't know what the hell to tell you. There's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of things happening. And if you look at the talent that's in the program and just, we're talking recruiting right now, but if you're talking projecting for this season, there's a lot of good things out there.
Yeah. And it's a long time until signing day. We have seen some of the big splash commitments that they've gotten under Coach Prime come, a little bit later in the cycle. So,
right.
But, it's not, I think it's everybody nowadays, just less patience.
Yeah,
I want it right now.
Well, and you look around, like somebody on the board today said CSU is recruiting better than us. Well, they got 21 warm bodies. There's not a guy on that list that could play for us. I mean, so who cares? And why worry about what other people have got? What you got to worry about is what we've got in comparison to the teams we're going to play on a regular basis. And from that perspective, we're doing very well.
We've gotten a chance to see some of that talent in the summer strength and conditioning program this summer. I really enjoy when they do the outside sprints. What do you call that drill where you've got 2 groups and one group gets a head start and the other group tries to catch up? And if somebody in that group catches up, then it's a bad look on the first group.
I think this first group has a penalty or something. I can't remember what we used to call that. It'll come to me. But,
we did caterpillar runs in basketball. But we never done that sprinting drill. But when they do that, like you see the competition really ramp up, and it's you got to line them up and do 10-100 some days, but to be able to kind of mix up the conditioning a little bit, I've enjoyed watching those clips this summer. Yeah,
and I think what I'm seeing is a lot of players taking leadership in these kinds of things. I mean, like the other day I saw Jaheim Otis really taking leadership at some point, and that's a nice sign. And other guys saying, like at one point somebody lifted and somebody said, look, if you got to go down and weight, you got to go down and weight, but you got to do it right. And what really comes out of all the strength and conditioning clips to me is that these guys really like each other and they hold each other accountable, and there's a lot of camaraderie there. And even Coach Swayze commented on it one day, that's how you build good teams and working together, and guys going through hard times together is how you learn to believe in each other, because you're out there and as long as guys don't quit, you can count on them.
Yeah, Joseph Williams is comfortable in his own skin, isn't he?
I think a lot of these guys are. I don't know.
I've noticed him become a very vocal on the videos this summer.
Well, okay, and I got to be honest with you. I kind of I look for the big dudes, and then I go watch the big dudes, and I don't watch the little guys so much. But I'm seeing some of the same things from some of the big guys that are newer in the program as well.
Yeah, Tia, he's a trip.
Yeah, he's funny, and they like to give him a hard time, and he gives it right back. It seems like too.
Yeah,
and it's just funny the different personalities. Like Cooper Lovelace is just sort of serious all the time, and just the different personalities, joking around and messing around. But I'll tell you one thing about this that we are going to be so huge up front on both sides of the ball. Our defensive line is massive. Amari McNeil is significantly bigger than he was last year. Just looking at him, and the level of lifting and the weights and the size of these guys is significantly bigger than last year. We're gonna have backups on the defensive and offensive line that would have been starters for us anytime in the last couple of years.
One guy that continues to kind of just stand out as an intriguing wild card player in this program is Jeremiah Brown.
Yeah.
He looks like he's leaned up.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't look like there is any bad weight on him.
Yeah.
And it would just be great. It would be a great story for it to all come together, especially at a position where they need some depth to show up.
Yeah.
I think, if I was doing a national interview and they asked me about a wild card player, I'd probably go with like a little more mainstream, like a Draylen Miller or somebody like that. But when you talk about and throw out a wild card player to diehard CU fans, I think Jeremiah Brown might be number one on my list.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun, and he's shown flashes, particularly in spring games every year, and he just needs to turn it up. He switched to the inside from the outside, and so it needs to all come together for him. Kylan Salter's another guy. My God, you look at him in a T-shirt and you think that dude's been in the NFL for 3 years.
They're calling him man-child or something like that.
Oh my God, I'm just like, he almost looks as good as me, But so there's some guys, and I was doing a little thing. I was like, 5 things that need to happen for us to win 9 games again, and that position is one of them. Some guys need to step up, and and since we're talking inside linebacker and we're talking the summer drills, the guy who was always front and center, every single time, no matter what they're doing, running, leading, is Martavius French. And maybe it's because he's just a distinctive looking dude. I don't know, but he's always right there in the picture, busting his hump and making other guys work hard too. So, linebacker's a funny thing. Strength and power and everything is much more obvious on the defensive line. At linebacker, you still have to have the instincts and be able to, make decisions quickly and do that. So we need some guys to step up at that position, and we got some guys that at least have the athleticism and the body type to do it. Yeah.
Quentin Gibson had an impressive deep catch during it looked like some player-led reps out there. We got to get a location on Charlie Offerdahl. Saw all the running backs get out for dinner, and we didn't see Charlie.
I don't know.
I'm not ready to say goodbye to Charlie
yet. With the stash,
I mean, he's not in our top 40 Buffs countdown, but if we need to throw him in there to get him back.
Yeah. Well, I think that if you that's a good point, good case in point. We're talking about the improvement of this roster year over year, and 2 years ago, he was coming out of spring as the number 1 running back, and now he's not in the picture. Which is goes to show I think there's more talent in the program.
He might be in the picture in terms of the staff, though.
Yeah,
because last year I think we were like, as soon as we get into the season, he's not going to be part of the mix. But he did get opportunities.
Yeah, but I mean, he'll get carries and he'll get on the field and he'll play some, but he's not going to be. He's not going to. There's not really a realistic possibility that he's one of the top 2 guys.
Probably, yeah. Anything else stand out? Speaking of personalities, Tavion Coleman on the D line, he's got a big personality out there.
Yeah, he is and he's another big guy that's really thick. That the defensive linemen, when they get in there lifting, are they're buffaloes, but they might be water buffaloes, man, big and mean. But Amari McNeil's another character. That defensive line group's got some guys with some character for sure. But then. A couple things that jumped out at me, like Zy Chrysler and Cooper Lovelace, both on the offensive line, are going to spend their break working out with NFL offensive linemen. Chrysler's going to go to Houston and work with a couple of guys from the NFL down there, and Loveless was talking about a friend of his that he used to play with, plays in the NFL now. But that's exciting to me that they get a break and they're going to go spend it trying to get better at football.
Yeah. Anything else from this week watching the team work out?
I don't think so. I think I'm more and more impressed with Coach Swayze and his leadership ability and how he motivates and how he brings them together as a team, and how he handles things like the music and whatever. So, and then I think, the from time to time I see the two female S&C coaches in there, and I think they have a really good relationship with the players too, and that's working out really well. They bring a whole different aspect to it.
Well, Travis Hunter was a rich man already. He's a really rich man now.
Yeah.
You see that signing bonus? $30.57 million all up front.
Yeah.
He's the first non-quarterback drafted to have an entire signing bonus up front.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, and the money that's in this stuff, I don't know. It's that's what people get paid. I don't know.
It's not like the Jaguars have this great history as a franchise, but the way they've treated Travis Hunter has been exactly what you wanted, and especially they announce him as a signee on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
And then it's like all the stuff with Cleveland keeps coming out. It's like you got one guy that got a perfect situation and another guy that just really got kind of a raw deal.
Well, I mean, Shadur, I don't know. Does anybody getting a raw deal when they're making that kind of money? Even Shadur, I don't know. He got a better deal than I got, but he has to go out there and show that he's the guy, and there's question marks about him, and he has to overcome those question marks. I mean, that's just really, and that's the way it works for all of us, I think, to some extent. So I think Cleveland, I don't know what their story is, but there's a reason why they're one of the worst programs in the NFL, and Cleveland continues to Cleveland. I don't know what to tell you. It seems like they got about 19 quarterbacks in there, and none of them are any good. So I don't know why they wouldn't be looking at Shadur and giving him the fair shot. But we'll see what happens.
The Buffaloes announced their new program that's going to help out with revenue sharing. It's called Buffs Premier, and it's got different tiers, different access that Colorado fans can access with that subscription, and really this just kind of comes with the new revenue sharing model coming in, and you needing to generate $20.5 million, and just different way to try to generate some revenue.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of ways to generate revenue. I ran for office 18 years ago and raised $1.5 million on my own just by calling people. I think that this athletic department is lazy, and they don't do what they need to do to raise the kind of money that they could raise. I don't know why. That's not up to me. They're not asking me. But this is at least a step. So we'll see what comes of it. I think we got a couple of different things for raising revenue, and now we got a new limits, and we'll see how that all plays out. I think. I don't know.
Buffs offered 2 in-state prospects for 2028. So these are guys that just finished their freshman year of high school, and these offers went out based on camp performances in Boulder. Fairview offensive lineman Colton Ott, got a story up on him right now on the front page of BuffStampede.com, and then Northfield High's Devon Daniels, that newer high school that's kind of right by DIA.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen a top level recruit coming out of that high school though before, have we?
Well, I don't think I don't even know where it is. I hadn't heard of it. It said in the story it was 13 miles southwest of DIA, but I'm like 13 miles southwest. Doesn't it put that out in Jefferson County or something? 13 miles a long way.
It's not. I mean, DIA is kind of out there.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a lot of land out there.
Yeah, I don't know, but he looks like a good prospect. The offensive line kid is interesting. I'm watching him at that camp, and I don't know, just with all the long hair, he's just an interesting looking kid.
305 is a sophomore to be.
Honest to God, I swear to God, looking at him in those videos and in those photos, I would not have guessed 305.
Okay.
I would not. I would have said 260s, 270s. And what that says to me is that if he's 305 like that, he's easily going to be 3 1/4 when he gets real muscle on him.
Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support, but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. William, everybody that listens to our podcast knows that we love the Hungry Toad. They've been bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. At the Hungry Toad, they serve up hearty homemade fare from their scratch kitchen paired with a brilliant selection of British beers. They're the perfect spot for friends and family to gather, relax, and enjoy the warm, welcoming atmosphere. If you're mad for football, so are they. Whether it's the American gridiron or European footy, they proudly support CU football and CU women's soccer. The Hungry Toad, Boulder's local pub that's not on Pearl Street. Head to 2543 Broadway in Boulder.
And you know what? Hans Serrata don't take no whoopings either. He hands them out. How's that for a second?
I love it. I love it. All right, let's do it. Officially get into the top of countdown. We did the honorable mention guys last week, so if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, I thought it was a good discussion. And honestly, that segment might be the best in this whole countdown because it was a lot of perspective of where the depth in the roster building has grown by leaps and bounds in the last 3 years.
Well, I still think that this next five to me still kind of feels like the honorable mention for two reasons, but we'll get to that when we get to it.
Well, with a lot of these guys, there was not a lot separating them, right?
Right. Yeah, but certain, we'll have our annual debate about the value of certain positions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, at least I got Coach Prime. He's got my back on this debate, so
that's all right.
Well, it's not here.
He hasn't had a chance to talk to me. I could set him straight. See.
Number 40 on the 2025 Top Buffs countdown is offensive lineman Larry Johnson, a transfer from Tennessee. Big young man, 6'7", somewhere in the 345 range. It sounded like he was close to about 400 when he got to Tennessee and has shed quite a bit of weight. Still kind of working on that, I think. But he played some at Tennessee, saw action in 8 games offensively, 7 others on special teams. One of the candidates for the right tackle spot.
Yeah, I think he'd be a candidate, really a candidate for almost everything. I think he's, another guy that's been around and is a little bit older guy and has some experience in the SEC. And, I think we got several guys that people are forgetting about, and he's one of them on that offensive line. And watching them all out there work hard and practice and such, it's I don't know, it's exciting. There's a lot of huge guys out there, and he's certainly going to be one of them and going to be in the mix. And I think, if I don't know, if we brought in 5 NFL All-Pro offensive linemen, somebody complain about it and say that guy shouldn't be there, whatever. But if Larry Johnson wins one of those spots, I think he certainly deserves to have it. So it's going to be interesting for these 3 offensive line coaches to figure out the playing time for all those guys.
He was number 37 on my list, number 39 on your list, so we were really close there. He's one of those guys, William, if you told me he was going to end up being one of the top 25 most impactful Buffs this year, I wouldn't bat an eye at that.
Yeah.
But also, if you said he doesn't belong on the list, I could see that playing out that way too at this point, just because of how much competition there is.
Well, I mean, I think there's, legitimately could be said that given where he is right now, he would be one of our starting 5 easily the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So the upgrade, there's a lot of guys. There's going to be several guys on this offensive line who are not going to play who would have been starters the last 2 years. Now that's not, it's not that we had the world's greatest offensive line or anything, but it just again illustrates the upgrade from year to year on this roster.
In 2 years, so you get him a couple years in the program.
Right. Got a couple.
Which is always nice.
Right. And I guess he's sort of the opposite of who's the guy we lost they're sort of the opposite, where he was just coming into his own for us and transferred out this year.
Zach Owens.
Zach Owens, that's the one.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah. So senior moment here.
Well, how old do you have to be to have those? Because
I don't know.
I'm 45 and I have them. Not to the extent that maybe you do.
Probably your kids think you're a senior. From my perspective, you barely old enough to be out of high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But Zach
Owens, because Zach Owens was a guy that was
load to Mississippi State.
Yeah, and he was losing weight and finally coming into his own. And I think Larry Johnson is sort of the similar thing to him. So there was a lot of people were upset that we lost Zach Owens, and I get it because he was just coming into his own. And people say, well, what's the point? And I would say this to the people crying their blues about the high school recruiting class, because some of those same people are the ones that when Zach Owens left, so what's the point of getting these guys from high school? They just leave anyway. And so I think and there's a point to it, but then we got Larry Johnson, which is sort of the same guy for Tennessee, and he's coming in for us now. So I don't know, the portal giveth and the portal
That's why I don't like
taketh
the
away.
spring portal. It feels like you're trading similar talented
right.
guys.
You lose a guy, you get a guy. Well, I mean, at least in this case, we got a guy that makes up for that loss. So
right, yeah. But I think you would prefer to have some continuity in your program.
Yeah.
Because Larry Johnson has to come in and learn the way that they do it at Colorado.
And you wasted all those, anybody that transferred after spring, especially if they're getting first team reps, you wasted all those reps for our perspective as a team. It's just like, you didn't know it at the time, but you would like it to give those reps to a guy that's going to stick around. So I think they ought to close that second portal and make it all one thing.
Yeah. Number 39 on the 2025 Top Buffs Countdown is defensive tackle Tavian Coleman. He was not on my list. I definitely considered him. He was number 34 on your list, William. Transfer from Texas State, highly productive player there, and also spent some time at Utah State. Not quite as short as Wankwell, but he's kind of more of that squatty, kind of stout type D lineman.
I was looking at your notes here, and I said he is on your list. He was 41. Then I was like, oh wait a minute, we're only doing 40, aren't we? Okay, I'm with you. But when you see him, he's not the shortest of the guys that came in because in the weight room videos, Lightfoot is clearly shorter than him. But he's got length and he's got that thickness. He's going to be another guy. You just look at a guy like that and you think, a year or two ago, he would have been one of our best defensive tackles, and now he's going to be maybe second or third team getting reps, But I think he's a guy that allows us to continue to run three different defensive lines throughout the game and keep them all fresh. So I think he's going to give us some really good reps.
Yeah, just 1 year of eligibility left, so he'll try to make the most of that. And they've brought in a lot of guys like this that are kind of using that last year to try to make a big statement after getting quite a bit of playing time at a group of 5. It feels like it's 50-50 in terms of whether that's successful or not. Like Johnny Chaney Jr., I thought was going to come in last year and be a pretty decent linebacker because he was a productive guy for a winning football team, albeit Florida A&M. But that's why some of these guys are hard to figure out where to put on the list because
and I think that's where we have the concerns about Martavius French and Reginald Hughes, because they were both very successful linebackers at the lower level. Will they be able to translate that up here? Well, we'll see.
All right, this should be fun. Up number 38 on the 2025 Top Buffs Countdown is kicker Buck Buchanan. He was number 31 on my list. Of course, if you've watched any of the previous years, he was not on William's list. Louisiana Tech transfer, 3 to play 2. He's going to be their long field goal guy, and he's going to be their kickoff specialist. Strong leg, nailed a 60-yarder at the spring game. All right, go ahead.
Well, I you know what? We've had this debate. I think you're better off as a team kicking it off to the goal line anyway. And I don't know. I can't find space on my. It's hard enough to find space for 40 guys, and some guys we left off. So I know all the whining and crying and self-flagellation over, my God, we can't kick a 50-yard field goal. Who gives a damn? How often does it matter? So this guy's going to give us 9 points a season. I don't know. Can't find space for that guy.
Well, okay, so on the kickoffs, you don't have to spend as much time working on kickoff coverage if you're putting it through the end zone. You're limiting the risk of injury for those guys, because as fun as it was to watch them go down there and destroy guys last year, that still wears on those guys' body throughout the course of the year. So I enjoyed that. I'm actually going to miss seeing that because it was so fun to watch those special teams guys make those plays this year. But I understand why Coach Prime and his coaching staff don't want to mess around with it.
Okay, and I'm not excited about it.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you, man.
All right.
You know, I'm a different brand of football guy, and I don't really give a damn about kickers. You know, I mean, kickers are great until they cost you, I guess. Kickers are like long snappers to me, you know. Keep your trap shut. Unless you can dance, then you can come out, then I'm okay with you.
I thought you liked Mata.
I did. That's what I'm saying. Unless you can dance, then I'm okay talking about you, right?
Okay.
If you're you know, you're not a football player, but you're a nice soccer player that can kick a football. Good for you. Great.
Okay.
But I can't find a spot in the 40 for him.
It's a good name though, Buck Buchanan.
Buck Buchanan. For a linebacker, maybe.
All right. Well,
I don't know.
I mean, we're just going to keep going back and forth on the same thing. But the reason
Hey, one of these years,
I will justify the reason that he's on my list is we're talking about 40 guys.
yeah,
There's 11 starters on both sides of the ball. So I can find room for some specialists on the bottom end of my list, knowing that they're going to have a big impact week to week. And if Buck Buchanan makes a game winner, I think that justifies him being on this top 40 list just based on that. Like, because we love Mata, but he's not going to make a 58, 60-yarder to win a football game.
and yet he has.
He's made a game-winning field goal,
Yeah.
but not from long distance. And so now you have this luxury, if you're in that situation, that you have somebody that can at least, kick it that far.
Which maybe comes up 2 or 3 times a year. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm just
but if
not,
it wins one game,
I don't know if
it's one game.
Well, okay. Tell me one time. I don't know. You have to find me a time in the last 3 or 4 years when it's won or lost a game. But that's a whole other game. And I think and I'm going to flip your other thing around. There's 11 starters on both sides of the ball, and there's if you want to include backups, there's 22 guys on either side of the ball. So 44. That's 44 guys right there playing real positions that we expect to have a real impact on the game.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not going to ever get me on board with it. Maybe one of these days, we'll wake up and cats will be laying down with dogs and the sun will come up in the west and I'll say, hey, you know what? Kickers, I love those guys. Can't get enough of them.
I don't want to get your blood pressure boiling too much, but Dara O'Neill was their best football player back in, 2012? John Embry's second year when they won one game?
Thank you. My point. I think that makes my point. Like if your kickers and punters are in the top 40, you got a problem.
No, he was number one on the team.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
a problem.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. That's not good.
I think we're gonna go with the fact that you just made my point.
Do you respect Mason Crosby?
You know what? I never had the big Woody for Mason Crosby. Everybody else does. I mean, he was a good weapon, and he was special. And when you got a team, I think when you got a team like he was on, that's looking for 12, 13, 14 wins, then that little extra added amount makes a big damn difference.
Okay.
I don't know when you're a guy like, I don't know. That's like saying, Michael Jordan is the argument for something in basketball. Well, he's the best that ever played. Okay, arguably, I know other people think other guys, but I'm just saying you can't make an argument based on the best guy that ever did it. I don't think.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
You're saying it's like that's the exception.
He's an outlier.
Outlier.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. All right. We've got more specials to talk about, so we'll pause this and come back. We'll put a pin in it for now.
Yeah.
Number 37 is, according to William, a real football player. He plays linebacker, and that is Sean Myers. He was number 39 on my list, number 32 on William's list. Transfer from North Alabama, JUCO All-American at Hastings College, then a starter and captain there at North Alabama, 2 to play 1. What are your thoughts here? it kind of falls in line with Jeremiah Brown in that, like, there's some things that I really like here, and I'm kind of trying to get optimistic, but I'm also still not 100% convinced.
What's the problem, do you think? Well, let me first expand on your one point about this being the real football position. To me, and everybody has their own view of football, this is the prototypical football position. Inside linebacker is what the damn game is. Mm-hmm. To me, and I'm old school, and I remember the days when a guy played tackle to tackle and was a headhunter, and we had our share of those, had our spell of being linebacker U, and so I just love this position to death. If I could be anything in football, if God said, I'll give you the size and the athleticism to be anything, I either want to be a tailback who can run 4.4 at my size or be an inside linebacker. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Going off on a rant here, but what are the question marks you see with
just
Myers?
Again, going back to, it feels like 50-50 in terms of these guys coming from a level like North Alabama, whether that translates to this level. Yeah,
and I mean, I think it worked out with Nakai Hill-Green. Now, he had been at Michigan before that, but didn't really do much there. But you look at Sean Myers, and he's a guy that played a lot of football, and he plays it well, and he plays at 100% full speed, and crashes into people and makes things happen. So I'm actually fairly excited about him. I think he's a good addition, and could well push for quite a bit of playing time. Ideally, we'd have more than two guys we count on. I think we mostly counted on two guys last year at the inside linebacker position, and if one of them had got hurt, we'd have been in trouble. Which I think was evident in the bowl game, for example. So I think Sean Myers is a good addition, and I'm excited to see what he does. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but that's not what you look for in inside linebackers anymore. So I think he can play both spots, and I think he can get into coverage and do a lot of those things and do them well. And he's another one of those guys that's he's been playing football for a long time now. Fourth or fifth year guy, and so that experience and that age really makes a big damn difference, I think.
It concern you at all that we only have 3 linebackers on our top 40 Buffs list this year?
Well, I think we talked about that before in terms of positions that we have concerns about, and linebacker and running back is pretty much everybody's key 2 spots.
Maybe a little tight end too.
Yeah, well, except we haven't used the tight end, so it's hard to, I know Shermer says he's going to use a tight end, but until he does, it's not really a position that you feel like you got to have. But I feel very good about both of those top 2 guys. I don't know what we got at linebacker. I love what I see from Martavius French in the summer, but until he does it against the Big 12, we don't know what he got. And then Reginald Hughes to me kind of disappeared in the spring. Jeremiah Brown hasn't proven it, and Kylan Salter looks great, but hasn't done it either. So I don't think we have a sure thing at all at any one of those spots. Now the positive to me is our defensive line is going to be so good. Our front 5 may be damn near unblockable this season, and they'll beat up on the Big 12 like nobody's business because we got an SEC level front 5, and so that's going to make life a lot easier for whoever the linebackers are. They won't have guys in their face, and they can just run and flow and make reads. Plus, I think with Livingston as defensive coordinator, he's one of those guys. Like Levitt was in 2016 and Tumpkin, who can make adjustments and use what they got to best effect. So, it's concerning for sure. But I don't know, I think we got 5 guys that are very interesting to me. 6 really. Montrezl Walker's going to be a player. I don't know if he'll be ready this year, but
I liked his attitude the other day. He was saying, "This, I can't wait to get pads on." He's already anxious
because he's a thumper, and that's what I love about Dick. He's a guy you could put out there. He's going to go full speed and knock people's heads off. You may make a mistake here or there, but the problem is you make a mistake at middle linebacker, and it could be you're not in the right spot at middle linebacker, and a guy goes 50 yards.
Yeah. He's going to be a really good player.
Oh, yeah.
You just hope you give him enough to stay engaged and happy here at Colorado.
Well, and every now and then you get the true freshman linebacker that's ready to go, and if he's the guy, so be
Jordan
it.
dies on Addison Gillum.
Yeah,
but that's kind of, to your point, kind of the outlier. I mean, expect that.
And I also would say that those guys got that shot because there wasn't anybody in front of them.
Yeah.
Which may be the case here. I don't know. We'll see.
would it help or be harder for a freshman in this green dot era to do that? Because you're going to have to communicate stuff, but you also have coaches that can communicate with you.
Well, if you got 2 inside linebacker spots, and they played around with putting the green dot on Quincy Wiggins for the spring game, so there's different things you can do with that, and there's different guys. There are going to be a lot of guys in this front seven who you could put that green dot on, and quite frankly, I think Stoutmeyer or Bayard or somebody, you could do that from the back side of the defense as well. So I think if Montrezl Walker proves he's one of the 2 best linebackers on the team, you put him out there, and then whoever the other linebacker is maybe the guy.
Kind of coach him a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, number 36 on the 2025 Top Buffs Countdown is edge Quincy Wiggins. He was not on my list. He was number 29th on Williams' list. First player in the countdown here we're talking about that was with the Buffs last year.
Yeah.
These other guys have all been transfers so far to this
I didn't even
point.
notice that.
Yeah. And so it's been cool to see in the portal era that somebody doesn't just take off the second they hit some adversity. He was limited to 58 special teams plays with the Buffs last year, but Coach Prime has really taken Quincy under his wing and try to be a mentor to him. And even, when it comes to stuff in the classroom, you can tell those two have a really good relationship. That I think he was the number 1 ranked recruit coming out of Louisiana, the state of Louisiana, the year he came out. It's been a couple of years at LSU. The thing with him has been that he looks like an NFL player, but just hasn't put it all together yet.
Well, and I think there's some question about how to use him and what's his best position, and is he more of a hand on the ground 5 technique or a stand up outside linebacker edge guy, or can he play inside linebacker? I know they were doing stuff with him in spring with him standing up with his hand off the ground and things like that. I mean, he's one of those guys. If you lined up the whole damn team, in t-shirts, probably Quincy Wiggins and Kylan Salter, you'd pull out and go, who are those 2 dudes? Jesus God.
Yeah.
And if the things we're hearing coming out of spring ball this year are true, and Quincy Wiggins hits that, if he hits his potential, he's first round draft pick. But it's a big if, will he or will he not? But the fact that they put that green dot on his helmet for the spring game, I think says something to me. Maybe it was just an experiment, but you don't, you're not going to experiment like that, with somebody you don't think is any damn good, I mean, you experiment with guys to see if they can handle it when you do it. You don't experiment with a guy who you start out going, well, he's not ready for that, right? And so I think Quincy Wiggins, he was in my list and fairly high up there, 29, because I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be. You mentioned who'd you say early on was to be the big surprise that you said
Jeremiah Brown,
yeah. And Quincy Wiggins is the one for me.
Okay.
Quincy Wiggins, without question, is the guy to me that may be by the end of this season is the guy we go, holy crap, we've been waiting for that guy, and there he is. And if he plays at anywhere near his full level of potential, he's a guy that's worth a couple of wins, because that kind of a person on the front 7 of your defense is the kind of things that set teams apart.
Yeah, my hardest part getting him in mind was just because of some of the guys ahead of him, Arden Walker and, Samuel Okunlola, I think are, more established at this point, even Keaton Wade probably. But, yeah, I am very intrigued to see what happens there.
Ergo, why certain positions didn't make my top 40.
Let him merit, too. You got to find a way to utilize him a little bit this year.
Yeah, well, I think he's a guy that you put him into situation. Well, he's like Keaton Wade, where you don't have to put him on there at the beginning of the year, but you start to find what he does best, and you put him in for those situations, and give him situations where he can just have success, and don't count on him, don't put the pressure on him, and just count on, just put him out there in situations where he can just do things. And kick butt. So I think London Merritt's another one that exciting. Alexander McPherson's looked pretty good in spring ball too, but both of those guys are kind of luxuries. Although, we're not as deep at the edge position this year as we were last year, so they may.
If Webb Walker gets it back, then that's an extra piece right there.
Yeah, but that's right. But I don't know the medical side of that. with the cancer, you know, and how much
he's been working out, getting his strength back.
But how much did he lose, and what's he really allowed to do? I don't know the answers to those questions.
This should be fun. Number 35 on the 2025 Top Buffs countdown is punter Damon Greaves.
I should have found space for him just because he's Australian, mate.
Yeah, you got to have at least one Australian.
One Australian, mate.
You got to.
Yeah, they're characters. I tell you, they they always seem to be.
Yeah. So he was number 29 on my list. We know that he wasn't on Mr. Gardner's list.
But I come from the era of CU football when our punters were the best in the country year after year. Mm-hmm. We had like 4 or 5 guys straight who were the All-America punter, and everybody said, "Oh, it's because of the altitude." It's because they were damn good kickers.
It really doesn't have that big of an impact.
No,
it's a couple yards max.
Right. And I think that I don't know whether it was a thing that Coach McCartney went looking for, or it was accidental or luck, but for literally 3 or 4 straight 5 guys, they were first team All-American punters, and it was fun. It's nice to know when you stall out, you can change the field. And you're going to put them at the other end of the field, and they got to come the whole damn distance. So that is important. I think frankly, punters are more important than kickers, especially if you're struggling on offense.
Yeah. So Damon Greaves played Australian rules football as a professional for 2 years. He was actually drafted in that sport.
Which does
that make him a
that's
player?
a crazy sport, man. They don't wear helmets. They knock the crap. Teeth come out.
So where does your respect level for him?
Oh, I like that
now?
kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he lifts hard, and
Okay.
I think he's a guy that could probably get out there and knock some heads. So I think he's a good punter. Who was the punter? I don't remember, was it last year or the year before, who he just, like the ball had eyes, and it would go and just find that pylon and go right out before it.
Mark Bassett?
Was that who it was?
Yeah, he was really good at directional punting the last couple of years. And actually, I don't want to base everything on one spring game, but I was spending a lot of time watching the specialist because there was points when there was nothing else to watch out there.
Yeah.
And he very similar punter to Mark Bassett in that he's really good directional.
Yeah.
Some of the other punts, maybe you wish there was a little bit more consistency on them. And that was kind of what Mark Bassett was for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Just had some real highlight punts. Some of the other ones, every once in a while, there was a shank here and there.
Right.
So we'll see. Greaves played in the Big 12 last year, averaged 42.3 yards per punt for the Jayhawks. And he's got 2 years to play with the Buffs. The last guy we're going to talk about in this segment going through the 2025 Top Buffs countdown is number 34, and that's running back Micah Welch. Finally, we were pretty close on a guy here.
Yeah.
I had him number 34. You had him 33. And so very much in agreement in terms of where he kind of factors in with this team. And I was disappointed that he wasn't healthy for the spring game because he's one of those guys that just very entertaining to watch run the ball.
Well, and he's another guy that could end up much higher when we re-rank things at the end of the season, because he, I don't think he's going to be one of the top 2 running backs, but he very certainly could. Mm-hmm. He could be the top running back on this team. He's shown good things as a young guy. I thought he showed a lot last year as a freshman in certain situations. He needs to learn to get upfield sometimes when he tries to find more things outside. Yeah. And you're going to get away with that in high school because guys can't run sideways the way they can at this level.
Yeah.
So, and I think Marshall Falk will teach him, find that hole, stick your foot in the ground, and get upfield. And he's a guy that can run over dudes, so he's a lot of fun to watch.
He was born to play football.
Yeah,
you can just tell.
Yeah, I don't, as long as he's a player, whenever I think of him, I'll think of the time he trucked Shiloh in the spring.
This is as an early enrollee freshman.
Yeah, right. The guy's supposed to be getting ready for prom in high school. Yeah. So we need to see that in actual games, though.
Yeah. Yeah, he was kind of nagging hamstring injury last year, but he still had 4 rushing touchdowns as a true freshman.
Yeah.
Definitely had those flashes in there as well last season. So I feel like we'll kind of break it up. We'll probably do 7 or 8 guys each time we do one of these Top Buffs countdown.
Yeah.
We'll come back each week. We'll talk about the latest Buffs news and then kind of transition into this list. And there's also going to be a a written component with the Top Buffs Countdown as well. So a good start here.
Yeah, and by the time we get to the end of the month, now we're getting ready for football again.
Yep.
You know, and then
It really does kind of leads you right into it. So
so we don't have enough controversy. We're not drawing people in with the controversy and calling people names and me cussing and getting you poking me with a stick and all that sort of stuff. I think everybody's like, I'm not living up to the expectations out there, being calm and collected.
Well, if there's on Around the Horn, the show that recently got canceled on ESPN. Whoever won, they got to do a little rant at the end. Do you want that?
Well, I don't know. I was going to ask you. I was going to do things like, first, two things I had in mind. One, I was going to say, what are 5 things that you think we need to happen to win 9 games again? Do you need time to think about that? Because I put down number 1 is a quarterback's got to step up.
Yeah.
And then I think the O-line comes together. But
I'd go balance offensively. Number 1.
Well, and I'm tempted to say that the number 1 question mark on this team is Shermer, is the offensive coordinator. What does he put out there now that there's not Shadur out there and it's on him? So I said run game is the next thing, and then as we talked about a minute ago, linebackers have to show up. A couple of linebackers have to be for real, and then we need to. And then this last one I think is already there, but they have to prove it in games. Is we got to find the big play guys to replace Hunter and Jimmy Horn and guys like that.
Okay. Yeah. I would go balance number 1 for sure, and I would go linebacker 2. Having a couple guys that step up. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be quite to the level that Bentley and Hills Green were last year, because of a point you made earlier. The D line's gonna be better.
Right.
That would be number 2. I would spend more time thinking about it though to really come down with a concrete top 5 list. And then quarterback, I think
quarterback. One of those guys got to take charge of it. And somebody asked in the comments after last week, why aren't people more excited about Caden Salter as the possible number 1 quarterback?
I think because his play took a little bit of a dip last year.
Right, and I think that's entirely what it is. People are like, are you going to get the guy from the year before or the guy from the second year?
He wasn't awful last year by any stretch.
No. And I guess the other thing that too is Caden Salter, his success as a quarterback kind of depends on what kind of offense they give him. They got to give him an offense that fits his skills. But I think he's a guy that plays right into having a good running game, because you've almost like you're running the option. You have to account for him as a potential runner as well as the running backs.
Yeah, that's why when I say this, I get strange looks from people. But I could see Colorado's offense putting up the same points per game this year. It's just going to look completely different. And you do get that RPO game going with Salter. It takes so much pressure out.
Oh my goodness, it could be electric. It could be great.
Yeah.
Now it could fall apart and the wheels come off too. But when I see people talk about, Colorado's going to drop off after they lose talents like Hunter and Shadur and I don't know. I don't think that's what happens with most good teams. You find guys to replace those guys, and to your point is you don't try to run the same dang offense that you did with Shadur, because now you got a different quarterback, and so you try to fit something else in there. Like you said, also make the running game work. But if you're talking about we don't have any one guy that's Travis Hunter. Well, we got 4 or 5 guys that bring different elements of his game that are going to be big damn plays. Guys, and some of these guys are going to explode, and
it's going to be like with Omari and Miller, he's got these bursts.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I think you got a lot of guys that are going to have these bursts. I mean, even a Quentin Gibson can come in there and have a half.
Right. Like in that USC game for Miller, Quentin Gibson comes in as a freshman, and he's a different kind of a guy, or Farrakhan, right? But I don't know. If you ask me, the plays that stand out in my mind from last year, one of them I will never forget Block Bully pushing the whole frickin' offensive line back on that 4th down play by himself, just like he was a Jedi Knight or something, pushing everybody back, right? And then, but the other one is I think it was Draylon Miller with that one touchdown where he dragged 3 dudes into the end zone.
Yeah. Sadly, Bishop Thomas in the TCU game with that block.
Yeah, right. Well, that's 2 years ago. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
But so I bet. But we're talking about these guys like Draylon Miller. that's a guy who's just got electric. There's a reason why they put him out there with Shadur throwing to him for the scouts. So there.
And 3 years ago, the only guy we'd be talking about is like Cam Michael if he was in that room, because he would have been better than everybody else.
Right.
And not that he's an afterthought, but he was hurt. So
right. So he's sort of fallen off of people's radar or whatever. But I'm looking at it like and I think that the guy who had the best spring is Joseph Williams, and then you got a couple of 4- and 5-star guys in Brown and Hakeem Williams, and you're like, again, if they hit their potential, holy cow, it could be better than what we had last year. So it's exciting. I guess I don't understand why more people aren't excited about this coming season, and frankly about the recruiting and whatever. One thing I would remind people out there is we don't recruit all the guys that everybody else recruits. Like this Oho guy at tackle. Mm-hmm. It seems very clear to me that we said goodbye to him and not the other way around, because he doesn't fit what we're looking for, because I think Coach Prime's been very clear from the start that he's looking for a certain kind of a guy and a certain kind of mentality, and you got to fit our system, and you got to fit in with our guys, and you got to want it as bad as they do and work as hard as they do, and he doesn't want to, I'll use the term prima donnas. He doesn't want a guy that's a prima donna in the sense that he's outside the team and bigger than the team. If you can't be part of the team and not bigger than the team, you can't play here. Because if Travis Hunter can be part of the team, don't come in here trying to act like you're bigger than Travis Hunter.
Well, Deion Sanders is known as one of the greatest teammates.
Right. And that, that to me, that takes me to another point, is that all the people out there that hate Deion Sanders, they don't understand him. Mm-hmm. They don't know who he really is. All they see is the flash and the brash, like they called Shadur brash, but they don't see what a great teammate, the hard work, the preparation, how intelligent he is, and they miss all those things because they get caught up in the persona and they just hate the persona. Why, I don't know, but that's
They're Tim McCarver lovers. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what they are.
He had that coming.
Yeah.
What's that? Have you seen the 30 for 30 with Coach Prime that's all based on him playing in the World Series and an NFL game in the same?
No, huh?
Got to see it. Yeah.
What
would
happened?
be too long to explain. Yeah.
Okay.
But anybody out there that hasn't seen that's a good watch, and Coach Prime is excellent. His personality is definitely shining in that documentary.
Yeah, and I go back to what we've been saying about Coach Prime for 2 years is he's not brash or arrogant. He's confident. He believes in himself and what he can do. But every time I've ever seen the guy, he's happy. He brings joy to the room. He lifts people up. He doesn't. I have yet to hear him tear anybody down, that I can think of. Not even.
Well, there's a discipline aspect, but that's not tearing people down.
Yeah.
Somebody shows up with earrings on.
Yeah, right. But he called out the reporter guy, but I don't think he tore him down. I thought he was fairly respectful about that.
Yeah. That was an awkward moment for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, but Deion Sanders doesn't mind awkward, because he's going to say what he's going to say. At least you know where you stand.
Yeah.
And I think he's an honest guy and a straightforward guy. I hope everything's going well with him. But I don't know, for all the people complaining about recruiting in June, I think the guys earn more trust than that.
Fair enough. Well, that was a good rant to close out the show. So
it was sort of a happy rant. It wasn't, there wasn't no. I didn't cuss.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you can't. It's like coaches. You can't cuss every time.
Yeah. You got to fit the moment. Yeah. It wasn't an angry rant.
All right. Well, we'll get back into more of the Top Balls Countdown next week when we do our next podcast, and we will, as always, break down the latest news. Like I was saying earlier, there's going to be some recruits that are going to be announcing this week, so we'll have the latest there. Thanks everybody out there for tuning in.